What's up, Frugal Founders? In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about growing your email list and also share a tactic that has really helped grow my own email list exponentially for the past year and a half. Before we get into it, be sure to hit that like button so more people just like you can get this video and learn something and implement it into their own businesses. Before we get into tactics and growing an email list, let's take a step back and go back to the basics. An email list is essentially a list of contact information for your customers and or prospects that you can then promote to in an ongoing basis. And now you might be wondering, well, why do I even need to bother having an email list? And the answer to that is simply because you own it. As it relates to platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and et cetera, you don't own those platforms. So if those companies decide to change how you interact with their systems or their terms of services or anything like that, that impacts you and that can have a dramatic impact on your business. Versus if you have an email list of customers and or prospects, that's an environment that you own. So you can email whenever you want to. You have direct access to those individuals, so you don't have to find them across social or anything like that. So that's the reason why you want to have an email list. So if you have a new product, for example, not only can you share it across social, but you have direct access to the very people that are interested in the things that you're already pushing out. And so who do you think is going to actually buy from you? People across social, you might find some customers, or the people in your email list that have already bought from you, or who are already interested in what you have to offer. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go with the latter. Okay, so now let's talk about growing your email list. Now there are a lot of ways you can actually do this. Essentially at the very basic level, capturing a person's email address means you're giving them value, and in turn, they find whatever it is that you're giving them valuable enough to give you their contact information. So for example, let's say I'm an author, I have a new book. I want to promote my book and I want to give, let's say, a chapter away for free. So what I'm going to do is create a lead capture form, and tools like MailChimp and SendFox allow you to do this, where you have a landing page and you have a lead capture form on that landing page. A lead capture form is essentially a way to collect contact information. So a person's email address, maybe their first name, and also maybe their last name. And once they give you their email address, for example, then they get access to that chapter. So basically, they sign up via their email address. As soon as that process is done, then ideally, that chapter of your book is automatically sent to them to that email address that they sent over. And so basically it's an exchange of value in a way. And if you look across the internet, there's all types of ways people are doing this. Again, the book idea, a lot of people are doing that. Ebooks, webinars, events, things like that. Again, it's an exchange of value. One tactic that I've used over the last year and a half that has been really helpful in growing my email list, and really, frankly, it's been blowing it up, it's been growing exponentially, is doing live events. Now, obviously, this is prior to COVID, so I was doing live events, and so it was growing at a steady pace. But as soon as we went virtual and I started doing virtual events, that's when it shot up. And the reason is pretty simple. There's a lot of logistics around organizing in-person events. From an organizer perspective, there's a lot, but also from the attendee perspective, there's a lot too. So for example, if it's an evening event, if you have kids, you got to figure that one out. If you got to pick them up from school, et cetera, there's a lot that goes into that. And there's a lot of opportunity costs involved for both sides. A virtual event is the total opposite. It's a lot easier from both the organizer perspective and attendee perspective to actually do or attend a virtual event. And so just to give you some numbers, I've done now 3 virtual volunteering events in the last, I'd say probably 7 months. And the average is a little over 500 people registering for my events. And for one event, we had over 700 people register. And these are just meetups. These aren't full-on conferences or anything like that. They're just simple meetups, but the topic resonates with the audience that I engage with on an ongoing basis. And so doing these virtual events has been a real benefit to the growth of my own email list. Again, Doing live events is also beneficial, but it's not going to grow as much as a virtual event, because if you do live events, you're requiring people from different areas to travel to a particular venue, and people, let's say on the East Coast, for example, aren't going to be traveling to your meetup unless it's a full-on conference and there's more involved. It's like a multi-day event, things like that. But for virtual events, anybody can join around the world, and so it just gives you a larger addressable market, number one. It's easier to organize and it's easy for people to attend. And that recipe has equaled high growth on my email list. So no matter what type of business you have, who your audience is, take a step back, think about their pain points, think about what interests them, and see if you can figure out what type of an event would actually resonate with them. Now, if you have an email list already, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, you can also ask your audience through email what type of an event they would find useful. And then you just experiment, do different types of events and see which one is higher attended, and then do more of those events, and then you'll see your email list jump up because more and more people are going to want to register for that event, because now you know that that particular topic, for example, topic and format, resonates with your intended audience, and that's all you need to then scale that series, and then there we go. That's what equals higher growth in your email list. So we talked about the how and the why behind an email list. We talked about some tools that I recommend that you check out if you don't already have an existing email list. And then also a tactic that I recommend, again, is organizing virtual events, in-person events once we can start doing that again. But definitely leverage virtual events. And even after we are able to start doing in-person events again, virtual will always be there. The technology is getting better and better and better. And so you can then scale your efforts. So with that, hopefully you got something out of this video, and I'll see you on the next episode of Frugal Founder Hacks.